They are secret. Who's in on the secret? Obviously, presidents presumably are in on the secret. What about prime ministers? Is Liz Truss in on the secret?
No, because mainly politicians are regarded as temporary employees. This is very much a matter that is controlled by career intelligence officials and others in particular positions in the military. Why is it a secret? It's a secret because the technology that could be harvested from these special access projects would put that country in a very dominant position.
Earlier this year, Donald Trump said his administration would publicize files relating to UFOs. And since then, various reports of sightings have been made available to the public. And the president has repeatedly hinted at more revelations to come.
We're now releasing a lot of things having to do with space. It's people are very interested in it. It actually became the #1 topic. We're releasing a lot of information having to do with extraterrestrial things, and people are totally fascinated by it. It's amazing.
Well, he might not be able to say extraterrestrial, but that hasn't stopped the files receiving huge attention from the media and the public. But what if this is just scratching the surface? Could the US government and others know a lot more about intelligent alien life than they're letting on? Well, the barrister Jonathan Kaplan has spent 50 years examining the evidence of UFO visits to Earth, and his new book, Not for Disclosure, UFOs, the World's Best-Kept Secret, pulls together decades of evidence and testimony to make the case for their existence. And he joins me now. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello, Hugo. Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. So look, a lot of people simply don't believe that aliens have ever visited Earth, think it's absurd. Why are they wrong?
Well, I mean, that's been a cultivated theme, really, by initially the US government since the 1940s. And this is not a conspiracy theory, but there is evidence of a conspiracy. Congress in the United States has now woken up to this. They're aware that they have been lied to for the last 80 years by the three-letter agencies, the CIA, Department of Defense, and they are pressing now for disclosure of special access projects which have involved billions of dollars investigating this phenomenon. It's not an American phenomenon, it's a universal phenomenon. Similar programs are underway in China and Russia. And there's a big exchange of information with their allies, and particularly Five Eyes, which are the caucus of allies with the United States. The phenomenon is real, there is no doubt about it, and it is an open secret in Washington that is the case.
Why? Why have they been lying to us? Why have they been covering this up for decades and decades?
This, I know, stretches credulity quite a long way. But you have to go back, most recently to sworn evidence by a man called David Grush, a former intelligence agent, to the Oversight Committee of Congress 3 years ago now, where he revealed to Congress, and many other people in the field have known this, that the United States has been in possession of crashed craft. I know that's a difficult concept to accept, and biologics that have gone with those craft since the 1940s, that special access projects have been set up with private defense contractors such as Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin and others. And these projects are real. Physicists who have worked on them.
But why are they secret, Jonathan? And if they are secret, who's in on the secret? Obviously, presidents presumably are in on the secret. What about prime ministers? Is Liz Truss in on the secret?
No, because mainly politicians are regarded as temporary employees. This is very much a matter that is controlled by career intelligence officials and others in particular positions in the military. Why is it a secret? It's a secret because the technology that could be harvested from these special access projects would put that country in a very dominant position. Secondly, it's been kept secret because even after 80 years of intensive study and billions of dollars, the American intelligence agencies, the Chinese, and I'm pretty sure the Russians as well, simply do not know the source of this phenomenon. And it would be very disquieting, I think, to disclose to the public that we have a real phenomenon We're not in control of our airspace. We're not in control of our oceans, but we don't know what it is.
Let's talk about evidence and why there isn't more of it. Because, I mean, these days, you know, not virtually everyone, but vast numbers of people on the planet carry around a smartphone in their pockets at all times. If alien sightings, if UFO sightings, or whatever, UAP sightings, whatever we choose to call them, if they were frequent, why aren't there just scores and scores and scores of them on film?
Well, there's quite a lot on film. Obviously, the best photographs are the ones that are taken from these advanced military platforms, which are positioned in space and in outer space. But there are many photographs. There was, for example, a mass sighting in Phoenix, Arizona, where a very large craft appeared over Phoenix for a number of hours. There's some very good photographs of that. There are mass sightings over Mexico City during the total eclipse of the sun. There are very good photographs of structured saucer-shaped craft which were in the sky, which were being watched by millions of people at that time. And there are many photographs around the world. So it's not a question of photography. I think people distrust photography. It's really a question of looking beyond that to what other evidence there is, what data there is. And there's a considerable amount of data which comes from sightings by fighter pilots. At the same time, they're picked up on sophisticated systems by naval vessels which are in the vicinity as part of that exercise, and by other systems which are airborne.
We'll talk about some of the details there in a moment. But I mean, I'm still interested in why there aren't more photos. I mean, because there are anecdotes about, you know, sort of aliens landing, speaking to people, communicating with them telepathically, farmers sort of confronting ships landing in their fields. You know, there's the famous case in Zimbabwe of a bunch of school children who apparently saw some aliens and communicated with them. None of this stuff ends up on camera. Why not?
Well, I mean, take the case in Rue, which you're talking about in Zimbabwe. That was where about 40 or so children saw a craft just outside the school. And of course, they didn't have cameras with them. It's a very interesting case because the professor of psychiatry from Harvard University, Dr. John Mack, traveled over soon afterwards to interview them. He became convinced that this was a very real phenomenon, by the way. They were then visited again by two documentary teams 40 years after that experience, and all of them... Didn't
one of them say he'd made it up when they made a subsequent documentary?
No, nobody said that. No,
I think one of them later said he'd convinced his classmates to play along. But you're the expert here.
No, that's completely wrong. The documentaries demonstrate, in fact, how at least 40 of them they were able to trace explained how this had changed their lives. And indeed, the day after, the headmaster had them all individually draw what they'd seen, and there were obviously marked similarities between what they'd observed.
If we were to see an alien, then, Jonathan, from your research, what would we see?
Well, Dr. Eric Davis, who's an astrophysicist who's been on a number of classified programs, and people are more ready to speak out to a certain degree, not to breach their special non-disclosure agreements in the criminal law in the United States. He's recently given evidence to Congress that there are 5 known species of which the Americans are aware. I've spoken to other people over the years, one of them, Paul Hellyer, the deceased Defence Minister of Canada. He's told me that he was informed by intelligence sources that there were more than 40. And so there are 5 principal species. And the one that is the most common is what's called the greys, individuals about 4 feet, large heads, very black wraparound eyes. These are the beings which are commonly described by people of different cultures all over the world, not just the United States, and in descriptions which have been going on now, certainly through the 20th century and even before. Jonathan,
you're a KC, you're a very eminent lawyer. Do you have any reservations about covering this kind of stuff, writing a book about this kind of stuff, in terms of how it might affect your reputation?
No, I mean, obviously, reputationally, I've thought about this, but I am absolutely confident from the people I've spoken to, who many of whom will I speak to confidentially, who are still in the intelligence services, particularly in the United States and elsewhere, that this is a very real phenomenon. That there is a lot of misinformation out there, and the reason I wrote Not for Disclosure is because many people are fascinated about this. It's very important that we have an informed debate, and that informed debate can only occur if you have reliable information which people can access and learn from. So the book really is a plea for that. And this is happening now. It's happening because people, I think, are more receptive to it. They see what Congress is trying to do. They see the battle Congress is having with the Pentagon to force disclosure. The Trump exercise is never going to yield disclosure of what they really know. It's very much a very limited exercise, and I'm really want to see this matter more on a syllabus. It goes back a very long way. It encompasses a lot of fundamental concepts, such as our understanding of reality, consciousness, life and death, and our religious traditions.
Jonathan, on that expansive note, I'm afraid we've got to leave it there. Jonathan Kaplan, thank you very much. Not for Disclosure is out with Penguin Books now. And if you've ever seen an alien, do get in touch.